Welcome to Choose Views with Richard Chew. Get ready to dive into a world of insightful conversations and thought-provoking discussions.
As progressives, our job is to have an all-inclusive, full-on assault with all of our players.
A show that will focus on moving our political, social, economic, gender, and cultural conversation forward.
And all of our players means all of our players.
It's Choose Views. And now, here's your host, Richard Chew.
Good Thursday morning, progressives, and welcome to the January 16th, 2025 edition of Choose Views, 773-763-9278, Facebook Live, TuneIn Radio, YouTube, Twitter Stream, iHeartRadio, most definitely, and email me at richard@wcpt820.com. I'm a couple days behind on emails, guys. I apologize. I know I've got a lot to get back to you on, and I will make sure to sit my little fanny down today, Henry, and get those knocked out. You can catch all of our shows by subscribing to our WCPT podcast on Apple Podcast or Spotify, and that's where you can get Choose Views, the short and long version, and, of course, Joan Esposito, live, local, and progressive, Driving It Home with Patty Vasquez, The Big Picture with Edwin Eisendrath, Out Chicago, and our other shows. Check out our heartlandsignal.com digital platform because there's lots of good stuff there. And trust me, right now, there's a ton. I may not be able to read all those off right now. I'll get to them in the beginning of the 7 o'clock hour. And we're moving fast today because we've got a lot of clips that we want you to hear. And we've got a special interview that I did yesterday with a surprise guest. So we've got a lot to get in today and want to be efficient for you, but some really good listening and good content for you guys. Today from 2 to 5 p.m., of course, Joan Esposito's guests include Pat Creetlow, founder and editor of Up North News. Up North News, Jeffrey Korn, director of the Center for Military Law and Policy at Texas Tech University. Plus, Joan will be giving away tickets for the Capitol Fools show February 1st at the North Shore Center for Performing Arts in Skokie. Joan Esposito, live, local, and progressive, weekdays 2 to 5 p.m. here on WCPT 820. Tonight, 5 to 7 p.m., WHBY Outside the Box host Ben Kamenos will be in studio as guest host for Driving It Home with who? Patty Vasquez. Then tomorrow we'll be back, and Ben will be in the co-host chair. So they'll be kind of playing musical chairs, Henry. And yes, guys, I will turn off my phone. I heard that little beepity beep in the background, and want to be fair to you guys, so you don't have to hear my phone going off. Every now and again, I forget to do that. And a reminder, of course, my podcast, Choose Views, the short version, which are featured interviews, and the full episodes you can find by subscribing to one or both, and they're available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, YouTube, Amazon, and TuneIn. Just search for Choose Views with Richard Chew, or get the links by visiting heartlandsignal.com/choose-views. And right now, two of the good ones that we had recently, they're all good, but based on the person being interviewed, not necessarily me, but just a little John Fugelsang and Mayor Brandon Johnson. We got some other great stuff that's there for you guys to share and pass along. So there you go. All right. We got to stay on point today, timing wise. Last night, of course, we heard President Biden. Maybe you did, maybe you didn't, but that's why we're going to do what we're going to do today. If you didn't get a chance to check out President Biden's essentially farewell speech, and it's tough to say that. It's probably the most choked up I've gotten about saying those words. But if you did or if you did not get to see President Biden's farewell speech, we have some clips that we want to play for you that Henry put together this morning that I thought would be appropriate for you guys to hear. So we're going to kind of break them up and give you the guys opportunity to hear them. And then we've got another great guest with us today. We'll have our good friend Kurt Hurner from Akron, Ohio, with Jon Barber, who was one of the individuals that ran for Portage County Sheriff, to talk a little bit about some things that are happening there locally. Yesterday, we had Kurt Mellett from Hoosier Blue 63 talking about Medicaid issues in Indiana, and John and Kurt will be talking today about some things that are happening in Ohio. So that's where we are, guys. Henry, let's go to Biden clip number 1.
In the past 4 years, our democracy is held strong. And every day I've kept my commitment to be president for all Americans. through one of the toughest periods in our nation's history. I've had a great partner in Vice President Kamala Harris. It's been the honor of my life to see the resilience of essential workers getting us through a once-in-a-century pandemic, the heroism of service members and first responders keeping us safe, the determination of advocates standing up for our rights and our freedoms instead of losing their jobs to an economic crisis that we inherited. Millions of Americans now have the dignity of work. Millions of entrepreneurs and companies creating new businesses and industries, hiring American workers, using American products. And together, we've launched a new era of American possibilities. One of the greatest modernizations of infrastructure in our entire history, from new roads, bridges, clean water, affordable high-speed internet for every American. We invented the semiconductor, smaller than the tip of my little finger, and now is bringing those chip factories and those jobs back to America where they belong, creating thousands of jobs. Finally, giving Medicare the power to negotiate lower prescription drug prices for millions of seniors. And finally, doing something to protect our children and our families by passing the most significant gun safety law in 30 years and bringing violent crime to a 50-year low, meeting our sacred obligation to over 1 million veterans so far who are exposed to toxic materials, and to their families, providing medical care and education benefits and more for their families. You know, it will take time to feel the full impact of all we've done together. But the seeds are planted, and they'll grow and they'll bloom for decades to come. At home, we've created nearly 17 million new jobs, more than any other single administration, a single term. More people have health care than ever before. And overseas, we've strengthened NATO. Ukraine is still free. And we've pulled ahead of our competition with China. And so much more. I'm so proud of how much we've accomplished together for the American people. And I wish the incoming administration success, because I want America to succeed. That's why I've held my duty to ensure a peaceful and orderly transition of power, to ensure we lead by the power of our example.
Yeah, President Biden made certain that he kept his word and made sure that the transition of power happens the way that it's supposed to, and not had folks out there climbing the walls of the Capitol building whining because they didn't get what they wanted. We didn't do that. We are the true patriots, not MAGA, not any Republican. If you're a Republican and you didn't stand up to Donald Trump during the Biden administration, if you didn't force the Republican Party to provide the dignity and the civility that Joe Scarborough tried to argue with Michael Steele about, then you're part of the problem. And I'm unapologetic about that. You're part of the problem. It's not just a quote-unquote stereotypical crazed MAGA folks. It's all the Republicans who voted for the garbage that you're about to receive. We're going to give you one more clip. Let's go to number 3, Henry.
Americans are being buried under an avalanche of misinformation and disinformation, enabling the abuse of power. The free press is crumbling. Editors are disappearing. Social media is giving up on fact-checking. The truth is smothered by lies told for power and for profit. We must hold the social platforms accountable to protect our children, our families, and our very democracy from the abuse of power. Meanwhile, artificial intelligence is the most consequential technology of our time, perhaps of all time. Nothing offers more profound possibilities and risks for our economy and our security, our society, for humanity. Artificial intelligence even has the potential to help us answer my call to end cancer as we know it. But unless safeguards are in place, AI could spawn new threats to our rights, our way of life, to our privacy, how we work, and how we protect our nation. We must make sure AI is safe and trustworthy and good for all humankind. In the age of AI, it's more important than ever that the people must govern. And as the land of liberty, America, not China, must lead the world in the development of AI. You know, in the years ahead, it'll help to be, it's going to be up to the president, the presidency, the Congress, the courts, the free press, and the American people to confront these powerful forces. We must reform the tax code, not by giving the biggest tax cuts to billionaires, but by making them begin to pay their fair share. We need to get dark money. That's that hidden funding behind too many campaigns contributions. We need to get it out of our politics. We need to enact an 18-year term limit, time and term, for the strongest ethics and the strongest ethics reforms for our Supreme Court. We need to ban members of Congress from trading stock while they're in the Congress. We need to amend the Constitution to make clear that no president is immune from crimes that he or she commits while in office. The president's power is not limited. It's not absolute, and it shouldn't be. And in a democracy, there's another danger to the concentration of power and wealth. It erodes a sense of unity and common purpose. It causes distrust and division. Participating in our democracy becomes exhausting and even disillusioning. And people don't feel like they have a fair shot. We have to stay engaged in the process. I know it's frustrating.
So, guys, listen, today is going to be a lot of that because it needs to happen. If we don't want to get blamed for not talking about the things that we need to talk about as it relates to what President Biden said. And there's all kinds of, sort of head scratching and fear and worry and so forth. The number one thing that we have to do is galvanize and stay galvanized and stay together, keep coming together. That's the hope of the right is that we separate, we pull apart, we fight each other, whether it be on social media, as President Biden said, or in other forms of communication. Don't let that happen. Please don't let that happen. Now, I'm going to say something else. I'm throwing some flames today. If you are a Republican dad living in any community in the country and you voted for Donald Trump and out of whatever, your daughters are going to suffer, the daughters that you love. And frankly, your sons are going to suffer. And I think that if you believe that you're an intelligent man and you know things, that you probably, you either know that and you don't care because your own ego got in the way of what's right for the future, with what President Biden talked about in terms of oligarchy. Either you don't care and your selfishness got in the way, or you were too arrogant and ignorant willfully to say, we have to push back. This person is not going to help. It's not going to benefit and protect really my family. So I'm throwing some flames today because we need to throw them. The nice Richard's here. However, this is on y'all. It is. And I'll take any calls or any heat or any text from anybody that thinks differently. You can blame the Democrats. I've said what I've said about what Democrats could have done better. But 78 million people willfully voted for a person who is a 34-time convicted felon. And given the opportunity, this is how literal it is. If he were in a closed room with your daughter, she would not be safe. It's that literal. So you got a problem with that? That's on you. If he were in a closed room with a senior person that was struggling, that senior person would not be safe. I dare you to prove me wrong. I want you to. Try it. And when it comes to all the benefits that we've been able to enjoy as Americans, you put that at risk. Those who stayed at home and those who voted for Donald Trump. It's that literal. So prepare yourself to deal with it. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we got a few more clips for you. 773-763-9278. This is Choose Views, and we'll be right back.
You're listening to Choose Views with Richard Chew on WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk.
Hey, guys, welcome back to Choose Views, 773-763-9278. Listen, before we went to the break, I said what I said. If it offended you, then you probably are someone that needed to hear it. And if it offended you, it's not because I was being offensive. It's because I was telling a truth. So separate the two, look in the mirror and go, what could I have done better or more of? If you are in that 52%, this is coming in part from having dinner with a dear friend of mine and my wife's last night. 80 years old, been around for a minute, seen a whole bunch of stuff, and he just called it as he sees it, Henry. He threw some flames. You know, he's seen it all, and he was not holding back. And to that end, I took a little bit of, fire from him in terms of, just calling it as he sees it. And as he sees it is the truth. So y'all sat back that said, I'm not voting. I don't like her and blah, blah, blah. And those who voted for him saw you cannot have it both ways. You saw who he was for 4 years as president. You saw who he was for the 4 years of the Biden-Harris administration right in front of your face. You saw it. So for you to sit back and say things like, I don't do politics, I'm not voting, I don't like her laugh, I don't, all these things, I don't know her enough, all that other BS. And you saw what this other person did, was convicted of, and all the rest, yet you still took your happy behind into the voting booth and voted for him. You do not get sympathy and love because you made a conscious decision to see the the polar opposites and the things that the president just outlined that they've been working on. And you still chose to vote for that. It tells me all I need to know about you. It makes me question would I stop you from walking in front of a bus? I don't mean that literally, y'all, but you know what I mean. Because you made a decision to do something that's going to harm people that you say you love. But in reality, you made a decision to say, I don't really love you. I'm going to say it because I'm in your face. But when we separate from each other, I'm going to do everything I can to harm you. Why? What's at the core of all this? The big why. Because I believe that that the people that went down that path are inherently weak people. I'm not going to go as far as to say some of the things that I said in the conversation with my friend last night, TP, but I am going to say that inherently that those people, you're weak inside. And you're weak inside so to the point that you needed to vote for somebody and somebodies that could fill that massive void of weakness in your personality, in your heart, in your spirit, because you needed somebody to fill that void that hasn't gotten filled all these years of your life. Whether you were a first-time Republican voter, you're one of the dude boys, dude bros, or whatever the hell they call themselves, or you are 75 years old and your life just turned out to be not what you wanted it to be. So you're going to let this other person fill in the void of your own weakness and lacking. Either way, the decision you made is going to cause you harm. And you may not think it. You may think you're above it. You may think you're better than it. You may think your privilege is going to protect you from it. But let them start taking Social Security from your parents or your grandparents that need it. They're going to come stay with you? Okay? So I said I'm throwing some flames today. And that's what more Democrats need to do. And we're going to have to keep doing that. Connectedly throw flames and fight back and take this fight, as Hakeem Jeffrey says, to the public. We got a couple more clips we're going to try to squeeze in before we hit this next break. Let's go to Biden 2.
I have no doubt that America's in a position to continue to succeed. That's why my farewell address tonight, I want to warn the country of some things that give me great concern. And that's a dangerous concentration of power in the hands of a very few ultra-wealthy people. And the dangerous consequences if their abuse of power is left unchecked. Today, an oligarchy is taking shape in America of extreme wealth, power, and influence that literally threatens our entire democracy, our basic rights and freedoms, and a fair shot for everyone to get ahead. We see the consequences all across America, and we've seen it before. More than a century ago, but the American people stood up to the robber barons back then and busted the trusts They didn't punish the wealthy. Just made the wealthy play by the rules everybody else had to. Workers want rights to earn their fair share. They were dealt into the deal, and it helped put us on a path to building the largest middle class, the most prosperous century any nation in the world has ever seen. We've got to do that again. In the last 4 years, that is exactly what we've done. People should be able to make as much as they can, but play by the same rules. Pay their fair share of taxes. So much is at stake. Right now, the existential threat of climate change has never been clearer. Just look across the country, from California to North Carolina. That's why I signed the most significant climate and clean energy law ever in the history of the world, and the rest of the world is trying to model it now. It's working, creating jobs and industries of the future. Now, we've proven we don't have to choose between protecting the environment and growing the economy. We're doing both. But powerful forces want to wield their unchecked influence to eliminate the steps we've taken to tackle the climate crisis, to serve their own interest for power and profit. We must not be bullied into sacrificing the future of our children and our grandchildren. We must keep pushing forward and push faster. There's no time to waste. It's also clear that American leadership in technology is an unparalleled source of innovation that can transform lives. We see the same dangers of the concentration of technology, power, and wealth. His farewell address, President Eisenhower spoke of the dangers of the military-industrial complex. He warned us then about, and I quote, the potential for the disastrous rise of misplaced power, end of quote. 6 decades later, I'm equally concerned about the potential rise of a tech-industrial complex that could pose real dangers for our country as well.
It's already there, and those dangers are already right in front of us because of the misinformation and the disinformation of the last 9 years, and particularly, more specifically, the last 4 years, and even more specifically, the last year. Okay, so in my voice, you hear a certain resonance of frustration. The frustration is that we obviously didn't win this election. And I say we because I mean this collectively as a country. The Republicans who voted for Donald Trump, this is on you. The folks that didn't come out to vote, this is on you. To all the people that voted for Vice President Harris and fought hard, scraped, cut, did everything they had to do to try to win this election, and the Senate races and the House races, kudos to those of you who did that work. Kudos to us who did that work across the board. And you should take pride in knowing that you worked hard. And maybe you have that question, like, could I have done more? I even ask myself, could I have done more? So I'm not going to put that on anybody other than if I don't start with myself. I ask, could I have done more? To that end, what I will say is this. Now's the time to say, I don't get to lay down and not do anything. Many of us are heartbroken about this, and many people are scared and frightened about what's going to happen. And so do not lay down to this. Don't pull your punches. I said to this good friend last night, I said, I'm done giving people space and the luxury of me not getting in them. That's a soft phrase for saying getting their backside. Not doing that anymore. On this show, I'm going to continue to be inspiring and motivating and give you guys a course and a path and homework assignments as we go forward, because that's my job. And I believe in that, and I'm committed to that. At the same time, don't let next Monday be the day where you start to take the hits. Don't let it happen. Don't do it. Do not let that happen. They're going to come with all the garbage that they're going to come with. Be ready to punch back. That's what I have to say. You have to be ready to punch back. And I don't mean that literally. I mean it, and I don't mean it figuratively necessarily. I mean, be ready to punch back with information, with knowledge, and with the the strength to let people know you are not going to drag me through the mud. You're not going to take away what I've rightfully earned as an American citizen in the United States of America. Don't let that happen. I'll be here to support you. Promise you that. We're going to take a quick break. The number is 773-763-9278. When we come back, we'll be talking with our good friend Kurt Hurner from Ohio, along with Jon Barber, who has got some information that he wants to share with you guys. 773-763-9278. This is Choose Views, and we'll be right back.
It's Choose Views with Richard Chew on WCPT 820, where facts matter.
Hey, guys, welcome back to Choose Views, 773-763-9278. Yeah, a couple of flames from me this morning about the folks who allowed this to happen. And you know who you are. If you're listening or following anywhere in the country, you know who you are. Don't run from it, because you did it by who you voted for, and you didn't do it by who you didn't come out to vote for. It's that simple. And I'm done blaming the Democratic leadership and party and all the rest. We did our part, maybe not as well as we could have, granted, but that doesn't change the fact that 78 million people said, I want carnage, garbage, and a lot of BS. That's what happened. That's the reality. Just take all the varnish and the pretty curtains off and just call it what it is. Don't play pity pat with these folks anymore. Let them know how strong you are by calling them on their BS. It's that simple. We're blessed to have my good friend Kurt Hurner from Akron, Ohio, with us this morning, as well as my new acquaintance. I can't talk this morning, Jon Barber, also from Ohio, Portage County specifically. Jon is a gentleman who ran against Bruce Zakowski, the sheriff there in Portage County, who was more concerned about going around finding out which people had signs in their yards to support Harris Walls and how to go after them post-election than he was about protecting the citizens in the county and the greater state. Welcome to the show this morning, guys. How are you both doing? Kurt, you go first.
Well, good morning, Richard. Good morning, Jon. And boy, Richard, you sure got some heavy artillery out of your mouth today, didn't you?
That's what happens when you get with what we call them old heads. I was with an old head last night, and yeah, he reminded me of some things. So there you go. What can I tell you, Kurt?
Yeah.
So good to hear your voice, man. Glad you're well. Jon, welcome to the show. How are you this morning?
Gentlemen, good morning. It's glad to be here. Thank you.
Absolutely. It's good to hear your voice. I'm glad you're with us, and I hope you're doing well. We had our fingers crossed and arms crossed and legs crossed for you. But as I say, just because things didn't work out the way that we wanted, you're still in the fight, and I'm proud to have you with us doing the work that you do and keeping us aware of what's happening there in the county. So talk to us a little bit about what's going on. What are some of the things that you've been kind of keeping your eye on?
Well, and just to kind of recap the election, obviously, I mean, I think that like in around the country, people were looking at bigger issues than local politics. So I think that hurt us here locally. I think everyone says that politics is local, but I think that in this case, I'm not sure the people were looking at those issues. They were looking at bigger ticket issues up on a national level. And I think we got caught up in that. I mean, the numbers showed that during the election, obviously. And so, we live with that. I think there's a lot of good going to come out of this, but unfortunately, the race didn't go the way we hoped it did, and as a result, we're continuing to live with the antics that are going on here. So,
Jon,
can I ask you real quickly, what was your margin of loss to Bruce Zakowski? Because I might be able to make a connection here to that, so that people feel a little better.
Well, and again, we looked at when we looked at those results, we looked at where everybody was trending on the national picks. And he didn't pick up the same ground. As a matter of fact, our race was probably the closest race. I think there was close to 85,000 ballots cast. In our race, out of those 85,000, there was almost 3,000 people that chose to not vote down ticket. and our margin was only about 1,100 apart. So.
Because I read somewhere that you might have had 1.4, as far as you might have lost by 1.4%, if I'm remembering correctly. And if that's the case, then you have nothing to feel bad about, because that's the margin that Donald Trump won the popular vote against Kamala Harris. So Bruce Zurkowski, for all his garbage that he's going to spread or wants to spread that you're going to make us aware about today, he doesn't have a mandate like Donald Trump thinks he has a mandate too. You and Vice President Harris are in good company with that 1.4% margin loss, if that's the case.
That's a narrow. Kurt's making a great point, John. It's a small margin. At the end of the day, it's still a margin, and I know how people look at that and say it's sort of like, it only it only close only counts in horseshoes. But the point I think that has to be taken away from all this is that as we go forward, that's the foundation of people that we have to start with, whether it be local, state, county, or federal. We have to look at the base of people that voted with their heads screwed on straight and make sure that we're keeping those people in alignment together, working in the same direction. Whatever wording we want to use is to take that narrow margin, to Kurt's point, and make sure right now that we're reaching those folks to say, listen, it was close, which means that we've got our, it's like David Jolly has said, and I've repeated so many times, our ideas did not lose this election or elections for any of us, John.
No, I agree. I mean, but I think here, boots on the ground in the county, obviously, we've seen the pendulum swing here in Portage County. It was a very strong Democratic county a few years back, and the pendulum has swung. There's more registered Republicans than Democrats here in Portage County now, but it's still that independent voter base that don't align themselves to a party. Those are here in Portage County. It's 85,000 voters, and so those are the people that still move that needle, so to speak, back and forth. And, I think those people are people who are more at least engaged in understanding the person who's running for the office as opposed to the, I don't know, whatever you want to call it, the rhetoric that goes on, so to speak.
The person rather than the rhetoric. Go ahead, Kurt. Sorry.
Yeah. No,
I didn't say anything.
Go ahead, Kurt.
No, you go ahead. I just saying I didn't say anything. You were talking.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I just think that, again, and people are getting their information on social media, and we know that with AI and, everything else that's going on in the background with that's a hard nut to crack sometimes, to try to get people to understand that, hey, you really need to look at these issues, because you're not, we have a gentleman who just took over, I believe, the Senate, a Republican who took over the Senate here at the state, and he was giving a speech at one of the Republican meetings, and he said, we had issue 1, which is the gerrymandering issue here in Ohio, about trying to get people to understand that we wanted to put together a committee to set the boundaries for, the Senate districts and those types of things. And he made the comment in the speech, we created so much confusion in that issue that it lost. And that's sad. Instead of trying to get out information, they wanted to get out disinformation, and they were proud that they won because of that.
Which means,
John,
go ahead, Kurt. Sorry.
Go ahead. I was going to say, so John and Richard, I'm sorry. What I wanted to hear from you two, and Richard, you can piggyback or you can do what you need to too, is what is exactly going on with the sheriff's office right now? It looks like he's trying to build an army of sorts. Yeah,
that's what I'm seeing too, John. And it's the phrase was used that he's trying to build a Trump Bruce Zurkowski army of who? That's kind of where my curiosity is. We've been talking, like yesterday, we talked with our good friend Kurt Mullet about some things that are happening locally in Indiana with Medicaid. And this guy there in your area is trying to do some similar things in terms of, not even policy, just kind of in a very roguish way, taking over things.
Like he's knocking on the doors.
Yeah, and again, I think we spoke about this during the election too, is that, one of the incoming president's agenda is this illegal immigration and trying to go and get people sent back wherever they came from if they're here illegally, and and we go back and forth on the numbers, how many numbers that is, but how are you going to amass people to do that? Well, you have to put like-minded people in power spots to do that. And, and it's concerning, obviously. We have a constitution and we have rights, and it just seems like the only way to be able to do this mass deportation is to violate those rights that we have under the Constitution in order to make it happen. So it's scary.
How many people, I want to go back to something you said. I wrote this down. I want to make sure I heard you correctly. When you're talking about the voters, you said 85,000. Are there 85,000 independent registered voters? Help me out with that. What did I miss or hear incorrectly?
We have about 112,000 registered voters here in Portage County. And these are rough numbers, but it's 21,000 are affiliated with the Republican Party, and about 11,000 are affiliated with the Democratic Party. The remainder of those 112,000 are non-committed. They don't vote primary party. So, it's about 85 here in Portage County.
So that seems to be where the real meat is in terms of future elections, is the people that are in that 85,000 uncommitted, if you will, independent voters. I wonder how many of those people are going to be indirectly impacted if they're businesses that employ the folks that Donald Trump and his minions, including the Bruce Zukowskis of the world, want to deport. I mean, talk about that, John, if you can.
Well, and to your point, in Portage County, to understand the demographics, we have businesses, we have, big businesses, and then we have farms, and we have farm ground. And some of these farms in the southern part of our county employ people who are here legally, but they are from other countries who come here and help out on dairy farms, and they help out on crop farms, and they help out during the picking season, obviously. So those people are going to, and you're not seeing other people trying to get those jobs. So, those are going to be tough. They're going to be tough to fill. And just a small snapshot here in Portage County, you look when you head out west and down in Florida and Georgia and down south, where they really rely on for those during the crop when they're picking and that type of thing. And like I said, dairy farms rely on them. A lot of people who are here, documented people, participate in that. And so it is going to be challenging. We're going to see it. And, it's funny because the incoming president, he made a comment that, we want to bring these prices down on food. And then after he gets elected, say, I'm probably not going to be able to do that. If you can win by lying, we're not playing the game right, apparently. So it's sad. It's just sad. We want to tell the truth. They want to lie.
And then to take it a step further, John, how's this going to affect Kent State University? Because I can't imagine there's not any DACA that are attending Kent State. Are the Kent State campus security or the sheriff's department or the city of Kent police, are they going to go knocking on the dorm rooms of Tri-Towers or Prentice Hall or whatever the dorms are nowadays and say, you need to show your papers. Are you a DACA? Are you here legally? What's going to happen with Kent State University in that regard?
Well, and to
which is a major university.
And to that end, great question, Kurt. To that end, John, that's a Kent State's one university, but anybody that's been on a college university in the last decade can see that a large number of the population of folks that work in those service-related positions are folks that have come to the country as immigrants, gotten legal status. Yeah, talk about that on a micro level, not micro, but in terms of Kent State, but then on a broader with just in Ohio, the other universities that are in the state.
Well, and yeah, to that point, but then you have billionaires out here like Mr. Elon Musk who are saying, "Oh, those people are okay. We're not going to bother those people, the people who are in the tech industry and whatever. Yeah, those people, we should be good with those. It's all the other ones." And so I don't know how you pick and choose. And I agree, and again, and what we can talk about this if you want, is the guy who was recently hired here in Portage County was up in Lake County, and he drags a guy out of a bar because the guy looked like he didn't belong in this country. And so, that's scary. Is that what's going to happen? You drive around and you look for someone who looks different than you, and then you're going to violate their civil rights to try to determine if they're here legally or not.
Now, was he African? Was he African descent, John? Because my thought is, who's to say that Richard doesn't look like he belongs in this country?
Well, and John,
no, he was a person of color, and he had a thick accent. He was here. He is a citizen of Texas. He's a U.S. citizen now, but he came through the immigration process. But he is legally an American citizen here in the United States, the same way, again, as Elon Musk, who came here from another country. And so he was drug out of a bar because he looked different and spoke different than a couple of guys who were drinking, law enforcement officers who were drinking, and made a determination that this guy was a terrorist threat.
So Kurt, listen, I'm going to kind of meld this all together. I was saying to my good friend last night that two of the biggest influences right now in terms of media and messaging are both immigrants, one from Australia and one from South Africa. Who am I talking about? Rupert Murdoch and Elon Musk. Yet, if there were an Irish, this would have been an interesting thing. Let's just say that gentleman that and I read the story as well, was sitting with a gentleman that was just here from Ireland, been here for a year. Both of them got their papers right. All their stuff is right. They're good to go. They're sitting at that bar together. They work together. And let's say that they both work in a capacity of, mid-management, whatever, just to lay this out. They're both sitting there talking, and we know that if our brother from Africa and if our brother from Ireland are here a year, they both have very strong homeland, birthland dialects. Fair statement? What I'm going to be curious to see, and I've been saying this for way long time ago, 20, 30 years I've been saying versions of this. Which one are they going to drag out of the bar at that point? Because they both don't speak the dialect that we speak here broadly in the United States of America. That's going to be the litmus test that I think a lot of Americans are not going to be. They're going to either turn their heads away from, John. I don't know what the other is going to be. Is to see that happening when you got a guy or a man or a woman from, let's say, Poland, since we have a strong Polish population here in Chicago, sitting next to a man or woman from a brown country with a dialect. Who's going to get pulled out of the bar? That's the question that America's got to deal with when we start talking about immigration.
Or you could take it a step further and say, or you could even take it a step further and say 9/11. What would have happened if instead of brown-skinned Muslims who crashed into those planes, it was Swedes, white, blonde-haired, blue-eyed Swedes? Would we be having the same conversation 25 years later?
Right. Would we have a Department of Homeland Security?
Yeah, but here in Portage County, and again, it's already started to happen. It happened over these last 4 years. The people of color make up 5% of the population in Portage County, but the number of traffic stops was 24% of the traffic stops the sheriff's office made. So, I mean, they're setting up the play right now. I mean, it's not. It's look for someone who's different than we are, and that's the person we're going to stop and harass. And and you can't tell me that for every traffic stop you make, tinted windows or whatever, justifies a search of a person's property. And so that's what's happening.
So John, what would you suggest? So John, what would you suggest for people listening nationwide, as far as they may think they have Andy Griffith as their sheriff when in fact they may have Bull Connor?
Yeah, sure. But, I mean, Richard said it. He said it in the last segment. Now's not the time for us to sit back and say, hey, you guys created this situation. You live with what you have. We can't do that. We have to be the voice. We have to stand up. I don't want America to fail over the next 4 years. And if anyone does, they're wrong. But what we wanted to do is we wanted to succeed the right way, and we want to stand in the gap. And, 2 years from now, we get to decide again control of power in the Senate and the House. And so we have to stay engaged. We have to continue to talk to people, but not talk to them in a way that says, the country is going to go in the toilet and it's going to fail. We don't want that to happen. We want it to succeed, but it has to.
Can we start today?
Right?
Can we start with 2025 with our local people, from mayor to dog catcher to whatever, to precinct committee person, whatever it is?
That's going to be a large part of what we do here, at least on Choose Views. This year, we've already started in that space with the local stuff here in Chicago, having you guys on local there in Ohio, other states and people that I'm reaching out to, because as we recapture local leadership, we will start to recapture broader forms of leadership that are local, but are part of the bigger national conversation. Guys,
yeah, I think.
Go ahead, Kurt. Or John. Sorry, go ahead, John.
I just wanted to say real quick that capturing local seats, but I think it's important for people to understand, the very stark differences between Republican ideals and Democratic ideals. And I think it's, again, I've been a member of the Democratic Party since I was 18 years old, and it's always been because it seems to be the party that wants to help people. Help people at a lower level and all the way up through, and as opposed to helping industry and business. And we need that, but not to pad pockets. We need it for people to survive.
Absolutely.
And John, you need to talk to the May 4th people. You need to go on to the May 4th 55th anniversary in May and really get people energized in Portage County.
Yeah. Well, listen, guys, it's been great having you both on this morning. Kurt, as always, it's great to hear your voice and love your contribution. John, it's good to hear your voice again, my man, and I'm glad you're doing well. We want to have you back and have you be one of the regular voices that's part of the local conversation, and we will definitely do that. So thanks for taking some time out this morning, guys, and being with me on Choose Views. Sure. Thanks to you both, guys.
And thank you, John.
Thanks, John. Thanks, Kurt. Be well, both of you today, and we'll be in touch soon, okay?
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, guys. All right, guys, we're going to take a tiny break. Quick break, 773-763-9278. This is Choose Views, and we will be right back.
You're listening to Choose Views with Richard Chu on WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk.
Hey, guys, welcome back to Choose Views. Thanks to Kurt Hurner from Akron, Ohio, and Jon Barber from Portage County for being with us this morning. I wanted to make sure that John had a chance to talk about some things that are going on locally, which is part of the bigger conversation for us to galvanize and go forward. I'm going to keep moving this conversation and clips from President Biden's speech last night. Henry, let's go to clip number 4.
God is what makes America, America. Everyone's entitled to a fair shot. Not a guarantee, but just a fair shot. An even playing field. Going as far as your hard work and talent can take you. We can never lose that essential truth. Remain who we are. I've always believed, and I've told other world leaders, America can be defined by one word: possibilities. Only in America do we believe anything is possible. Like a kid with a stutter from modest beginnings in Scranton, Pennsylvania, and Claremont, Delaware, sitting behind this desk in the Oval Office as President of the United States. That's the magic of America. It's all around us. Upstairs in the residence of the White House, I've walked by a painting of the Statue of Liberty I don't know how many times. In the painting, there are several workers climbing on the outstretched arm of the statue that holds the torch. It reminds me every day I pass it of the story and soul of our nation and the power of the American people. There's a story of a veteran. This is a veteran, the son of an immigrant, whose job was to climb that torch and polish the amber panes so rays of light could reach out as far as possible. He was known as the keeper of the flame. He once said of the Statue of Liberty, quote, speaks a silent universal language, one of hope, that anyone who seeks and speaks freedom can understand. Yes, we sway back and forth to withstand the fury of the storm, to stand the test of time. A constant struggle, a short distance between peril and possibility. But what I believe is the America of our dreams is always closer than we think. It's up to us to make our dreams come true. Let me close by stating my gratitude to so many people, to the members of my administration, as well as public service and first responders across the country and around the world. Thank you for stepping up to serve. To our service members and your families, it's been the highest honor of my life to lead you as Commander-in-Chief. And of course to Kamala and our incredible partner, the historic Vice President. She and Doug have become like family. And to me, family's everything. My deepest appreciation to our amazing First Lady who's with me in the Oval today. For our entire family. You're the love of my life and the life of my love. My eternal thanks to you, the American people. After 50 years of public service, I give you my word. I still believe in the idea for which this nation stands. A nation where the strengths of our institutions and the character of our people matter and must endure. Now it's your turn to stand guard. May you all be the keeper of the flame. May you keep the faith. I love America. You love it too. God bless you all. May God protect our troops. Thank you for this great honor.
And there you go, guys. 737639278. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to Choose Views with Richard Chew on WCPT 820 AM, where facts matter. Take it away, Richard.
Hey, guys, welcome back to Choose Views, 773-763-9278. Yeah, the folks up in Minnesota are trying to go, a power grab, their version of January 6th in terms of how they're messing with the House of Representatives and the speaker's role there. This is something that you can find over at HeartlandSignal.com, and then we want to keep you abreast of what's happening with the Wisconsin Supreme Court race in April. We'll be talking about that as we go along. I want to talk today, but we will save this for tomorrow. All the carnage that we witnessed in terms of the folks being interviewed by the Senate as it relates to appointments to the incoming administration. What a garbage show. From Hegseth to Pam Bondi thinking that she's going to be the one asking questions. No, you are not the one to ask the questions and bring in your, what you want to ask the senators. How dare her? But that's that white, that's that white privilege. Hey, I was told online, do not apologize for my flame throwing. Thank you, 630. Yeah, that's what that was. That was white privilege on steroids yesterday and the day before. Call it what you want. That's what it was. So find more of our great coverage over at Heartland Signal X. That we've got a number of clips that you guys can appreciate and you can share. I just wanted to make sure to direct you guys there. Thanks to Kurt for being with us. Thanks to John for being with us. And also those passionate words from President Joe Biden as he provides us with a wonderful farewell speech, an alarm, a farewell speech, and a motivation all at the same time. So good on him. And I was asked, what would you say to him if I had a chance to talk to him? Thank you, Mr. President. Now go get some rest. We got this. We're going to fight, like you said. All right, guys. Had an opportunity to have an interview, a really good interview with a name that you guys will recognize and a dear friend of mine that I've been wanting to talk with for a while, but I wanted to kind of tie this all together with where we are and how we go forward. Earlier this week, I had a chance to sit down and have a one-on-one interview with comedian Dana Goldberg. And we've got that interview prepared for you guys. So sit tight and enjoy this next segment. This morning, we had the wonderful opportunity to speak with comedian, activist, voice of the voiceless, and my good friend and colleague in the progressive fight, Dana Goldberg. Good morning, Dana, and welcome to Choose Views.
Oh, good morning, my dear friend. How are you?
I'm good. I just want to say thanks for being on the show this morning and taking some time out of what's crazy for you right now, and start off by saying that we here in Chicago and my listeners throughout the country are sending you and so many others in Southern California, all the good vibes and the support that we can. We know that you guys are right face forward in dealing with this, and just want to let you know that we are sending out as much care and concern as we can and want everybody to be safe. So thank you for being on the show this morning.
Absolutely. I appreciate it. Yeah, it's been obviously everyone's been watching this on the news if they don't live in the area, and it is as apocalyptic and horrifying as it is appearing. But I hope that if you are listening to this, if you can take some time away from the mainstream media, as we call it, and these, stories about all the celebrities, and that's what they seem to focus on, and, the wealthier parts, and really try and find some local news stations talking about how Altadena has historically been, a predominantly black community, and how there's people in the Palisades that have had a very small house in this area, and they've lived there for 50, 60 years, and how they had to evacuate, old age homes and assisted living in the middle of the night, and these heroic stories. So I hope that, this trauma porn that everyone's seeing across the country, that they can really focus on some local news articles and stories and really see the humanity of what's happening and the people coming together, and not necessarily listen to the echo chamber on the right talking about, ridiculous theories about wokeism and gay people causing fires and that there's no water and, budgets being cut. Please just do some research before you share things like that, because it causes harm to the communities who are doing everything they can.
Without a doubt, and that's one of the things that I've been focusing on Monday on my show on Monday. I talked about the agencies that folks across the country can contribute to as a means of tangible help. It's one thing to send, the proverbial thoughts and prayers, and we mean it when we say sending out the good vibes and the support, but also There's some tangible things that people can do. I started with the American Red Cross, and then a laundry list of other local specific groups that are there in Southern California that are right there, ready to help the firefighters, ready to help the people who are volunteering that are getting tired, the various faith-based groups that are there to help anybody and everybody that needs the support. So it's always a phrase that, the people who are dealing with the stress are one group, but also the people who are there to care for those that are stressed are the ones that we have to look out for as well. So thank you for reminding people to kind of step away from the tragedy porn that's out there right now.
Yeah, absolutely. But thank you for asking, and thanks for keeping us in your prayers. It really is. If that's all you can do right now is send good energy to California, it's something. So thank you to everyone listening who is worried about what's going on in Los Angeles.
Absolutely. So many people hear your name, comedian Dana Goldberg, on the various shows and different things that you're on, but they really don't know about your career, and they really don't know about your ascent from to where you are today. And a lot of people, they hear you on Stephanie, they hear you on various shows, but they don't know about your background, and they don't know about your comedic story. And I just wanted to take a few minutes and kind of let people know and give people a little bit of a peek into that window, and what started you in comedy? What made you say, I can make more people laugh than just the family in the living room?
Well, it started with the family in the living room. I was raised by a single parent, my mother, who is a phenomenal woman in a 3-child household. Two out of 3 of us are gay, so it was either psychotherapy for the rest of my life or stand-up comedy. And I think I'd probably do my psychotherapy on stage with a lovely audience. Always been a funny kid. My kindergarten teacher told my mother I was the funniest 5-year-old she'd ever met. I'm not sure, honestly, Richard, what that means or who my competition was, but I was killing it when I was 5, just killing it. I think I use humor in my life, like so many of us do, to cope through hard situations. And some of us take that into a career, and others of us just use it to get through the days or make people laugh. But I think this was in the cards for me. I auditioned for my high school talent show when I was 17. And I did a 10-minute stand-up routine, and I won, which was the first time that I was like, oh, I could actually do this. For those of you that know me, you know that I'm very active in the LGBTQ community because I'm the L in the LGBTQ community. And when we put the tape in, it was digitized, Richard, and I am wearing a pair of jeans, a button-down, and a tie, and I look like Paula Poundstone, and I'm telling jokes about my ex-boyfriends and why it's not working out so well. And I'm like, maybe it wasn't working out so well because it's my button-down and my tie collection. But, that was my first time on stage. And then I spent some time at the University of New Mexico, where I was born and raised in Albuquerque. And I got my degree in physical education because, like I said, I'm a lesbian and it's the law. And then when I was 26, I went back and I auditioned for a show in Albuquerque called Funny Lesbians for a Change, and it raised higher education scholarships in the community for women. And they gave me a stand-up set. I had a 7-minute set in front of 650 people in a sold-out theater in Albuquerque. And honestly, I hit my first big joke, and I felt like I could fly, and the rest is history.
That's phenomenal. So, a lot of people don't know that about you. A lot of people hear, see, love you. They come to your shows all over the country. Was there an influence? I know you mentioned Paula Poundstone in terms of how your outfit looked, but what comedic influences did you have you had? And I know that that's probably changed over the years.
Absolutely. Back in the day when I realized that I was listening to tapes of old comic relief, Robin Williams, Billy Crystal, Whoopi Goldberg, and I didn't realize that I was probably studying and learning and absorbing everything. I had tapes of Stephen Wright that I would listen to, literally tapes in a tape player. For those of you that don't know what that is, I'm sure most people listening, but we've got some younger listeners out there that are like, I don't even understand what she's saying. You used to put a tape in a player, and you wouldn't hit play and
hit a button.
Play. What was it? Play and record. Yeah, you didn't want to hit two buttons at the same time. You'd actually record over your tape.
You would erase it and go, oh, my God, what did I do?
Absolutely.
And of course, there was no such thing as having it backed up where you could go, okay, it's no big deal. I erased it, but, I still have another one in the cloud.
It was gone.
That didn't exist.
It was absolutely gone. Yeah, it was absolutely gone. Your Boys to Men tape, never again. You'll never hear it again. Those were the influences when I was younger, and they have changed over the years. Now, my influences are my colleagues. I sit and, listen to and watch Fortune Feimster and Jessica Kirsten and, Aaron Foley and these people that I share stages with around the country, and I learn from watching them even still. So they're my influences now. But back in the day, I would say Robin, when I used to do interviews for newspapers or magazines, and they would say, who's your favorite comic or your influence? It was Robin. And when Robin died, it felt like we lost a family member. I remember crying like I had lost someone that I was related to. He was a brilliant man with a brilliant mind, and I know he's still missed by a tremendous amount of this country and probably abroad.
Most definitely. I remember Robin well from maybe a different perspective, not being a comedian or, as you so well put, you were studying. I remember watching Mork and Mindy with my mother and seeing my mother with her feet on her little ottoman stool, just crying, laughing at his physical comedy and his moving around the set. Of course, when they, obviously while the show was on the air. And my mother loved Robin Williams because she used to say to me, he's not afraid to do a damn thing. And that sent a message to me first about my mom loving comedy and humor, because she was an old school tough gal. But it's interesting, the influences that they move with the time and move with what we do, and you clearly have had a number of them in your career. Speaking of the career, a lot of people know about the work that you do with the Human Rights Campaign. And I've been so fortunate to attend a couple of events that you've done here in Chicago. And for those who are listening, I will tell you, get yourself ready for the November 2025 event that's going to be here, barring any changes, because it is a phenomenal fundraising event. It's a phenomenal group of people. But Dana, talk about how you got involved, what it means to you, and why you're such an advocate for the Human Rights Campaign.
Absolutely. In 2009, I had been headlining comedy events all over the country, some for the Human Rights Campaign. I was headlining with some old-school comics, Jim David and Alec Mappa. That what happened was a live auctioneer fell out of one of their galas. So oftentimes at these galas, if you've ever been to one, they have a really, hopefully fun, lively live auction. Sometimes it's not so fun and lively. And so when the auctioneer couldn't show up, they called me and said, "Do you know how to do this?" And I said, "Let's find out." And apparently it is some latent gift in me that I'm really damn good at money raising. So I now have figured out this really lovely equation where I go, and my brand is a comedian. That's who I am as a professional. And so I go and I do about 7 minutes of stand-up, and then I go right into the money raising. And we found out with these organizations that when people are happy and they're engaged and they believe in the fight, we're all there for the same reason, they open up their wallets. And they seem to, I've had people come up to me and say, "I almost gave you my child's college tuition. You are damn good at your job." And so that was in 2009. And since then, I do several galas, probably around 20 with the Human Rights Campaign, but I work with Lambda Legal, which is the nation's leading legal LGBTQ organization right now. They're fighting a lot of these unconstitutional bans, hurting our trans community and our LGBTQ community. I also work with Planned Parenthood. I know that's very important to a lot of the listeners, abortion access. I also work with what I call mainstream, straight organizations because they need my help too. But there's an organization down in Florida called the Child Rescue Coalition, and they catch child predators on the dark web. And it's interesting because that's a room full of police officers and FBI and, not just necessarily, my normal crowd where sometimes I feel like I'm in an echo chamber of liberalism. These are, conservative people, a lot of straight men and a lot of law enforcement, and they love me. When I can find the way I can make people laugh, Richard, is if they can see themselves somewhere in my material and I can bridge the humanity between the two of us, I can make anybody laugh if they are open to it. So a lot of these organizations, as long as it's near and dear to my heart and they need some help, I will agree to go down and work with them, raise some money. And so over the last 15 years of my career, aside from all of the stand-up and the traveling and the theaters, I've raised over $60 million for the LGBTQ community and for abortion access, reproductive rights, and HIV education and prevention, protecting these kids on the dark web. So I'm really proud of my career and what I've done, where it's led me with that. I have a gift, and I've been able to actually use it to do some good. And that makes me feel like I'm giving back to the communities that support me.
Well, and just for you guys that are listening, that was a 6-0 in terms of the millions that she's helped raise. And the way in which the reason that that's important is it's incremental dollar by dollar, person by person, group by group. And if you ever ask, if you guys listening anywhere in the country ever ask yourself, how can I get involved and how can I help? Sometimes it's something that's right inside of you that you may not even know about, but it's always from a perspective of giving. And if in many cases it's giving your time. So, kudos to you, Dana, and in that space. And thanks for kind of breaking that down, because a lot of people don't know they know of you as a comedian, which is great, and it's your bread and butter, it's your baseline. But using your comedy and your comedy chops to, as you said, make anybody laugh if they're open, that's a skill, that's a talent. And I think the universe will probably say to you, you got the message, you got the assignment. Take those gifts, turn them around, and use them for the greater good. And you've certainly done that. That's got to be fascinating to be in a room full of cops. But,
it is. But,
the stuff that they see,
the thing is, yep. But the thing is, Richard, and you know this from being part of different marginalized communities, people want to see behind the curtain. And so, if I'm up there, this lesbian, that breaks some of their stereotypes. Everyone has this idea of, not everyone, some people have an idea of what a lesbian looks like, the flannel and the boots and the cargo pants. And, it's ridiculous to think that that is what every lesbian out there looks like. So when you've got someone in front of them, for better or worse, that they don't necessarily pigeonhole in the community that they've always envisioned, and then I get to make them laugh. I give people permission to laugh at things that they may feel judged for laughing at in other communities, in other situations, if you know what I mean. And I think that's a really good way to bond people together, to say, we're not all so offended by this stuff. I almost forgot where I was doing. I'm not sure about the rules on your radio station.
Well, that's the beauty of a pre-record, because we could have edited it out. Just
I caught it.
I felt the SH welling up in your mouth, so that's okay.
Yeah, it was one of those.
Almost accidental moments. Yeah. But the greater point that you're making. It was one of those
Kamala Harris moments in the debate. Remember the debate when Kamala Harris?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Whatever it was. Yeah. It was one of those moments. But
you remember it well, don't you? Wasn't that just a charming moment?
Oh, I'm so mad at this country sometimes. What we could have had right now. And, I think about... And, I think about this horrible situation in Los Angeles, and literally a city burning. And then I saw, an article that was like, we're strong enough to get through this. And when we come back as a community, we're all helping each other. We're going to build back stronger than ever. And my only hope is that right now, as this country, theoretically proverbially burns down as we watch this new administration come in, that we can come together and the good people in this country, who there are more of us than there are of them, can actually rebuild better. I joke and laugh because there's one part of me that believes all that, and the other part of me is like, if we ever have another free and fair election, so I go on both sides of it, of like, I'm really hoping there's a better, brighter future, but I also know that we all have to dig in right now to get there.
Well, and I'm going to come back to that in a moment, but I do want to sort of reflect on what you just said about the two sides. So two thoughts. I feel that often. I stay optimistic every day, and on my show every day, the folks who are listening can tell you, I come from a position of optimism and forward, and how do we make this right and better and right, knowing that we're kind of running with a parachute on us because of the drag, literally, of the GOP. And that makes us have to look at this with a realistic set of glasses on, and at the same time recognize that we have no option, we have no choice other than to fight with all that we have. And the phrase from the Black Panther fighters is to come out fighting. We have to come out fighting every day right now, and I think that with that responsibility comes a certain amount of optimism, of knowing that when we fight, we do win, and that's why I'm optimistic like you are in this space. So,
absolutely.
Dana's been successful in a couple other venues in her life, and one of them that I'd like you to chat about is your work with Olivia Travel. It's a special, unique group of folks that you also get to entertain and make laugh. Tell the audience a little bit about what you've done and how long you've been involved with Olivia Travel.
Absolutely. Olivia Travel is the country's longest. It started off as a women's, I don't know if you know this, but a women's record label. A woman named Judy DeLugat and her partner Rachel at the time, they started a record label for lesbians and women that were underrepresented in the music community. And this is like Chris Williamson and, a lot of, for those of you listening, a lot of like folk singers back in the day. And about, I think 15 years into that record label, some of the community was like, we want to travel. And so they chartered their first ship, and the thing sold out in like a day or something ridiculous. So long and short, over the last 35 years, during the 35th year of travel, they have built what had predominantly just been very lesbian-centric women's travel, and it gave the women a place to be safe. I think people have this misunderstanding that, well, we have marriage equality now, and, so people are allowed to just be out and about, and they're sure, I mean, we're allowed to walk around the streets out and about, but it's not always safe. And in 26 states, I believe, people can still get fired for getting married on Saturday and putting a picture of their wife up in their office and get fired on Monday. The protections are not there. And so Olivia Travel created this safe environment for lesbians to be able to go hold hands in a safe environment. They charter an entire ship. Sometimes they work with Holland America, other ships, and they have different facets of this travel. So they've got their larger ships. They're about 2,500 to 3,000 people. They've got midships. They're about 3 to 7. And then they have river boats that are about 125. And they also have resorts. So they'll take over an entire resort in Mexico or the Caribbean or some different locations. And it's this special community that has been built over the last 50 years of musicians and comedians and people traveling and making best friends and finding their life partners. And so about 3 or 4 times a year, I've been with them since 2006. They bring in their own entertainment, so we'll get to go in and we have this really lovely bonding experience with women that have been together for 50 years or, lesbians that have just met and they're on their first vacation. They're young lesbians, 25. They've been saving up or they're going to pay this off and they just want to have this experience. But, like I said, I don't always want to be in an echo chamber, but there's something to be said about being in an environment where you feel 100% safe to be authentically who you are. And one of the things that I love about this company is that they're also evolving with the times. Now they call themselves the company for LGBTQ plus women to travel. So we have lesbians that some of their partners have transitioned and they identify now as trans men, and they're still welcome on these trips and they feel protected and safe. And we have trans women traveling with us that feel welcome and protected and safe and part of this community. And so it just feels really lovely. I've been able to see a lot of the world because I have a gift of making people laugh. But at the same time, I've built lifelong friendships with women that I have seen them get married. I have seen partners pass away, illnesses that we've supported each other through cancers and other things. And it's these bonds that we have as women, supporting women, entertaining women and entertaining by women. It just is something incredibly special. And so if there is anyone out there listening and you've thought about going on one of these trips, and I'm not doing an ad for it, Richard and I never spoke about this, but definitely give it a shot. And you don't have to be gay to be on these trips. A lot of people travel with their sisters, or a lesbian couple has lost a partner, and so they bring their best friend who is straight. It's just a really lovely way to travel, especially if you don't always feel safe amongst listen, I love you, Richard, but some people don't always feel safe amongst the straight men right now, or they don't always have the best experiences. And so if you are someone out there that's like, I want to go travel with my girlfriend, book a group of you, go travel, have the time of your life. You're not going to get worried about hitting on by men. You can just be out there in your swimsuits, living it up, body positivity, and just go have a good time.
Well, I got to tell you, I'm not always safe around straight men either. So as a straight dude, I can tell you that I draw the line very quickly. I've got my litmus test is for a guy is if I can't trust you with my wife when I'm not around, then you're not going to be friends. And so I have a very, I guess you could say, strong code, and that's why my friend groups are diverse in terms of men, women, straight, married, single, the whole, because it forces me to be better, and that's just kind of my own code. I got to come back to something that you said that is it's a denotation or description about, in the quote-unquote echo chamber or a silo or a similar group, but the power that comes out of that. And I'll tell you what it mimics in many ways, in a positive way, a very positive way. And that's what so many African-American folks will tell you about attending an HBCU. and that is you don't have to apologize for being who you naturally are and living your natural self. And I see a nexus there between that kind of energy that you get from being on an Olivia travel cruise and in some ways being attending an HBCU. Any black person that I know, family, friends, business colleagues will tell you, and I know you've had your experiences as well because of the diversity of your friendship base, that attending an HBCU has a similar effect, unapologetically. So that's great.
Yeah. You'd agree with this. Like, as we go into this new era, and I know we'll pop around the conversation, the intersectionality between communities coming together, that's how we're going to get past this. A lot of the times, unfortunately, I've seen in the gay community, especially black men, you're either black or you're gay, but you're not both. Like, you're either accepted in one group or the other, but the crossover isn't always there, and we have to change that. We really do have to reach over and say, all right, we're all in this marginalized situation. We're all on their list. How do we support each other, reach across and say, I've got you? Because I will tell you, and I know people hear this, if you're only fighting for people in communities you belong to, you're not doing it right. If you're only supporting people that you can completely identify with, and I think about this especially with the trans community. Everyone, it's bizarre how much hate I get for just speaking out for my trans friends. Oh, okay, sir, or you must be trans, or blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, if you're only fighting for communities that you belong to, you're not doing it right. If I'm taking this much heat for just supporting my trans friends, can you even imagine how much heat they're taking for being trans?
That's so.
If I'm getting this much heat for supporting my black community, can you imagine how much heat the black community is taking for just being black?
Well, and here's the commonality of that. I mean, your ethnicity, your gender, your what else? How else do I want to put this? Your career choice. All these things sort of mixed together makes this great gumbo of who Dana Goldberg is. But it also is a reflection of who it is you support. You don't just support one part of the LGBTQ community because you are a part of it. You support the entire stretch. But that also means because you recognize the other groups that are marginalized, and you said, African American men as an example, or other men of different ethnicities of color. It's about making sure that all people, to your point, if communities are coming together, and that's going to be our superpower, then this is how we're going to win. It starts there. It starts with us being willing, I think, Dana, to put down the things that don't make us perfect, even within our own community, of saying, you know what, I may not be down with XYZ from that community, but they're being impacted by what this quote-unquote majority minority is putting on them. So I got to step in for them. And I was asked a question once by a friend, and they said, you open the door for everybody. And I said, and they said, yeah, like most guys open the door for women. I say, well, why would I not open the door for a kid or for an older man or for a younger man or anybody? Because, the door needed to be open. And so that's my way of stating what you just said about, you're doing it the wrong way if you're only helping one community or the one that you're a part of. Time is always important to us in this business, but we got a lot of time. I just want to ask you a couple more questions because people don't know about.
I'm with you. Yeah, I'm enjoying this. I have nowhere to be right now.
Cool. Daily Beans. That's where your activist, other part of your activist side comes out. Folks know a little bit about it, but I mean, I've had Allison on. We did an interview with her a few weeks back, and she was great as always. Had a chance to first time meet her at the convention, and I just want to say this, and then I know you have comments, so we'll come back. Talk about Daily Beans, but wasn't the convention just an appropriately and well-needed love fest for those of us who were fighting so damn hard to make a change?
Oh, my God. I mean, I still hold those moments in my chest, like being inside that arena and seeing the American flag fly and people singing those songs about patriotism that had been taken from us because they have so the other side. And I hate to say the other side because when I say that, I'm very specific about this Trump cult. I'm not even talking about Republicans in general because those are different people now. And in my opinion, and I think people would agree, it's not Democrats and Republicans anymore. Like there's a Trump cult out there that are very different people. So when I say conservatives, I don't necessarily mean the Trumpers. I'll be very specific about that. So I feel like that cult had made it sound like if you don't fly the American flag, even though they decided to attack the Capitol and beat our police officers with an American flag attached to a flagpole, and then tell someone else, you're not a patriot if you don't fly the American flag. The hypocrisy, it was maddening. And so when I talk about this, I mean, I want people to hear that. But being in the DNC and watching the flags fly and us singing America the Beautiful and really feeling the joy and love for our country that was taken from us, not because we lost it. We were told it wasn't part of us. If we believe in equity, if we believe in equality, if we believe that racism is wrong and black boys should not be getting shot in the streets by police officers, and that gay people should be able to get married and trans kids should be able to have access to gender-affirming care if their parents and they and their doctor have agreed that it is the best thing for them. Like being in a room for like an arena. And I was thinking about, I mean, it filled my chest. And I really hope that the people realize now, and I know you would agree with this, I love I love Michelle Obama from 2016. When they go low, we go high. I love even more the Michelle Obama from 2024 at the DNC of I'm going to burn this place down. Yep. Like that's what we're at that point now. We tried to be nice. We tried to follow customs and traditions and rules. And I'm at the point now, Richard, and I don't know how you agree. If it's not illegal, do it. If it doesn't break the Constitution, do it. They're not following rules and norms anymore. We have got to learn how to fight better.
Spirituality, irrespective of which one ascends to or is raised in, will tell you that if you let the void be there, it will be filled with something that you don't want. And I'm not quoting directly from Scripture, but in the sense that we have to be willing to step into that void and fight. And I say this often on my show, Dana. You got to we forget this. Bring a knife, bring a gun to a gun. No, bring a sledgehammer. And the sledgehammer is in our thoughts, in our ideas, and our ability to fight until the end. And that's what right now. I love the way you phrase it. If it's legal, or as long as it's not illegal, then we should be doing it, and we should be fighting on all fronts. And I'm hoping and praying that the people who were able to attend and witness by television or whatever the convention recognize that, to your point, we are Americans too. We get to fight for it and believe in it and all that, just like anybody else that may not look like us or believe like us or love like us. And that there's no more of us sitting back, sitting on our hands. We have to be, as my father used to say, we have to have our dukes up all the time. And that's one of the things that was a takeaway for me from the convention. Talk to us a little bit about Daily Beans. How did this all come about for you and your work with Allison Gill?
No, it's interesting. During the pandemic, obviously, when that hit, all of the entertainers, the comedians, anyone who's doing any sort of live production, it got stripped away from us. And I'm sitting at home trying to figure out how to put my oxygen mask on, because I've got to do that before I can help anyone else. But when something you've done most of your adult career as your profession gets taken away from you, in the sense that we weren't allowed to be in public anymore. We couldn't be around people. You really look in and go, who am I without that? And who do I want to be? But I also found out who my fan base was and who supports me. A lot of live entertainers, we had to open virtual tip jars and do that sort of thing just to stay afloat during this time. And man, did my people show up. So if you're one of those people listening, whether it's from Stephanie Miller, the Daily Beans, or this radio show, I thank you. I know it's already been almost 4 years since that time, and my God, where is the time gone? But I thank you. And so during that time, a woman named Sarah, who works with Allison. Allison had a co-host for the Daily Beans, and there's something called The Good News. And if you listen to the Daily Beans, it's such a lovely part of the podcast where people write in, all of our listeners, with corrections, confessions, submissions, all of these wonderful stories about student loan forgiveness or just sharing shout-outs of their loved ones. And so they were looking for someone to read The Good News with Allison once a week, which was like a 15-minute gig. And I was like, yeah, absolutely, I would love to do that. I'm not leaving the house, and I'm, doing Facebook Live comedy, watching someone's cat, and they're, walk across the screen for 45 minutes and watching people cut their children's hair and people not muting and, yelling at each other about dinner. And I'm like, okay, I'm in comedy hell right now, but I would love to do this. And so I did the Good News with Allison, and our energy and the synergy between the two of us worked so well that at that time, Allison's co-host, who is an actress, was getting more work when the world opened back up. And so she was there less and less. And Allison asked if I wanted to, read the Good News with her several times a week, and then that quickly turns into, do you want to be my co-host? And I absolutely did. The community that the Daily Beans is we're all sort of cut from that same cloth of supporting humanity and wanting the best for this country. And, we do run the gamut of, liberal to very progressive. And, I think there are even some conservatives that listen to the Daily Beans who believe in the goodness of this country and believe that people are equal, even if they have some conservative thoughts in some other places. And it's a community that has really, over the last 4 years, given me such a light and a love over my days. It's a part of my day where I know I'm going to connect with Allison. We are bringing the news to people. It's news with swearing. So, if you like a good F-bomb from, place to place, that's where you want to go. And we try and disseminate the news to make it palatable for you. Because right now, it is tough. None of us are built. Our nervous systems were not wired to withstand 4 years of that guy, much less 8 years, of not just him, but the entire crew he is surrounding himself with. And so I implore people, please take care of your mental health. Take breaks. As Allison says, we've got the watch. She was in the Navy. She's a military girl, and we've got the watch. It's okay to put down the social media for a day and go outside and take a walk. And so, that's the way that Allison signs off the podcast every day is, take care of yourself, take care of each other, take care of your planet, take care of your mental health, and take care of your family. We have chosen family. And that's really what it is. So it's a lovely thing to listen to. So if you want to get news with swearing, and I definitely swear a lot because that's one of the places I can, it's a fantastic listen. We try and make you laugh. I have a really hard time pronouncing. See, right there, the English language at times, that gives people a good laugh. We bring you as much joy as we can.
Dana and I have had this conversation before about we both have severe potty mouths, and she's absolutely right about the Daily Beans. It gives one the ability to hear what's happening with an unfiltered way of saying sometimes the words that just need to be said. My sister Linda oftentimes will say sometimes saying the F word is just what you got to say, and so that's one of the beautiful things of the Daily Beans. So, Dana, as we wrap up, it's been a joy to have this. We've been trying to do it for a while, and you've been busy, and just, life has done the thing that it does. But as we go forward as progressives, how do folks go forward? In your observation, what is it that, if you were to list a couple of things that I think everybody can do and believe and ascend to, what would those things be?
I think the biggest thing is actively call out lies when you hear them about whatever community it is. And if you can and you feel safe doing it publicly on social media, do it there. If you're having a family reunion and your Uncle Jim says something about the trannies, you know what I mean? Like, it's okay to have a conversation with Uncle Jim and say, Uncle Jim, that's not the right word to use. And if you really want to learn something, I'm happy to tell you, but that's not true. And please understand why I threw that word out, just to make the example. Tell them it's the transgender community. Like, the little things of speaking up. If you hear someone berating someone in public, say something. If you hear someone telling a lie about a community, whether, a Muslim community, the black community, the gay and lesbian community, the trans community, Palestinians, Jews, any of these people, if you hear something that's not true or someone is being hateful, speak up. As long as you feel safe, speak up. That's the first thing. The other thing I would say, learn coalitions, build a coalition in your community. A lot of the people, and I will say this, and I say this as a white woman, we've got to do better. I know a lot of white women after the election, they started wearing these blue bracelets, and there was a sign to show, I voted Democrat. I'm with the black community. But if you're only wearing the bracelets and you're not talking to your black women in your community and you're not learning how to do a coalition and you're not donating to these organizations that are fighting for these things, then it's just platitudes. It's just symbolic, but it's not action. Take action. You can do both. Wear your blue bracelet, but make sure that you are taking some action. So that would be the other thing. Find an organization that you want to donate to, that you believe in, and volunteer. It is going to feel so good to you to learn about these things and to make a difference. Go volunteer somewhere. So those are the things I would say for now. Also, and I mean this, take breaks, like I said, from social media. No matter what this guy says, and I'm talking about Trump, he is going to say the most outlandish things. J.D. Vance is going to say the most outlandish things. Many of them are going to be unconstitutional, illegal, and they're not going to come to fruition. But the point is they want you to be scared. They want you to be silent, and they want you to back down. That's how fascism wins. That's how autocracies are born. Do not do it. Try not to react to every single thing you hear, because that's what they want. Most of this is distraction from the things that they're doing behind the scenes, and they like outrage. So that would be my thing of, like, really just take a deep breath, do a little research, try not to freak out. I know, trust me, I'm talking to myself as I say this to you as you're listening, because there are a lot of things that make me want to scream into the void and immediately respond on social media. And trust me, just for your heart and your blood pressure, stop arguing with strangers. They are paid to argue with you on Twitter, and I will always call it Twitter, because if he's going to dead name his trans child, I'm going to dead name that site. I will never call it X. It is Twitter, and hopefully a lot of you aren't even on there anymore, and you are on Blue Sky. It is a much more enjoyable place to be. I know some of the trolls are infiltrating, but most of us, the majority there, were able to build our communities and find our people. So definitely go to Blue Sky on all the social media platforms, Blue Sky, Instagram, and I'm still on Twitter, just sort of watching from afar.
Right.
My handle is DG Comedy. My initials DG Comedy, so you can find me there, and I would love to have you as part of the community. Let's support each other. We've got to support each other through this next 4 years. God willing, it's only 4. God willing, if we can do what we need to and we actually have a free and fair election, it's only going to be 2. Because we would like to get the Senate and the House back in the midterms. And I think a lot of people are going to realize the buyer's remorse, and they're going to realize they were lied to about tariffs, and they were lied to about the ACA, and they were lied to about, what's really happening with the trans community. And I think they're going to be out there voting. That's my hope, and I'm just hoping that we actually have a real election in the midterms and that we can get some semblance of balance back in this, in our government.
One of the first things that Dana said, guys, is to make sure that you call out, and I say this on my show pretty much every day, call out the BS real time if you feel safe in doing it. If you feel safe in doing it face-to-face, don't let people slide. And, sometimes you have to press pause before you do that. You may have to gather yourself and think about how you want to respond, but the thing that you cannot not do is you have to respond in some way or fashion and be safe about it, but we don't have the luxury any longer of just letting stuff slide on by. And the self-care, incredibly important, and I'm glad you leaned into that. Self-care is so important because it allows you to strengthen and go forward. And sometimes the self-care is, to Dana's point, turning off social media, turning off everything, backing away, catching your breath. At the end of my show, I always say, Dana, take a deep breath and make your life count. And that's where I think right now we all have an opportunity is to take that deep breath from the hard fight and then go back out again and fight harder, fight better, and work with the people that you know, and maybe reach out to the people that you don't know and help get them on board. Because I'm a big believer that there's a lot of people who have gone into their shell and they're just waiting for someone to reach their hand out to say, "We got you. Come on, join this train, and we're gonna get this thing back on track." So it does take all of us. One of the parts of my show is all of our players means all of our players, and you're one of them. And I so greatly appreciate you taking some time to be with me this morning to talk about your background, talk about the great work that you have done and will continue to do. And it's just been great having you on the show. Look forward to having you back again in the future. Does that sound okay?
Absolutely, Richard. Anytime you need me, I'm here. You are my family. You take care of yourself and all the people that you love, and I will do the same. And when I say that, that's our community. So thanks for having me on, and I look forward to being back.
Sounds good, Dana. Listen, have a great day. Stay safe. We got you, and we're sending you love and support to those of you that are in Southern California. So stay strong, and we look forward to nothing but good coming for you.
Thanks so much, Richard. Have a good one.
There you go, guys. A really fun interview with Dana Goldberg, one of the fighters, one of the champions in the progressive conversation. You guys have heard her most certainly on the Stephanie Miller show. one of our other fighters in this fight. And, Dana and I have been trying to put this together for a few weeks, if not a few months now. But with the things that are happening with the fires in Southern California, I thought it was a good time to kind of get a person's perspective who's actually there. And as she said in the opening, to look at the information that's real and that's been vetted rather than some of the garbage that's coming out of the mouths of Republicans, both on a local level, but certainly more so on a federal level. But good interview. Good to have her with us, and I'm glad you guys were able to be a part of that. As we're coming to the end of the show, tomorrow it's Friday, so we're going to be bringing you some fun stuff for the weekend and things to do. And we'll probably have our good friend Karen Byrne from True Blue Politics with us. We've got a state representative that's going to be with us as well. So it'll be a good Friday. As we wrap up today, I said to Henry, I don't know if we'll get to this clip or not, but there's two things I want to say. First of all, thanks to President Biden for his farewell speech. It was phenomenal. And when you need to be reminded and motivated and you need to kind of stoke your own fire, just watch that interview. You can pull it up on YouTube to see it in its entirety. But put that in your bank of things to strengthen who you are. I promise you that'll help you. And it's something that I'm sure that was one of the reasons that he did it the way in which he did it. I also want to say this to you guys. Don't come for us, or the people who are listening that are trolling, don't come for us, okay? Those of us who are in this fight, let people know, don't come for us. And I'll talk about this really two quick things as we wrap up. Former First Lady Michelle Obama decided not to attend the upcoming inauguration. That's her call, and I applaud her for doing it. Because I worry that she would have slapped somebody. I don't mean that literally. But Mrs. Obama's from the south side of Chicago. She does not play. And let's remember, mainstream media, your boy didn't, and Melania, they didn't show up for President Biden's inauguration. So y'all can go kick rocks in that space. Shut the hell up in that about Michelle Obama. All this coverage about her not showing up when your boy didn't show up. So shut the hell up on that. And secondly, we have a clip from our own governor, J.B. Pritzker, that I want you guys to hear as we wrap up the show today.
It's a stunt. It's not going to happen. But I'll just say that that Indiana is a low-wage state that doesn't protect workers, a state that does not provide health care for people when they're in need. And so I don't think that it's very attractive for anybody in Illinois, where wages are higher, where the standard of living is higher, and where we do provide health care for people who are in need.
So what is that off of? A knucklehead asked a question about the Indiana General Assembly considering a bill to encourage Illinois counties to secede. Trump wants to go after Greenland and the Panama Canal and Canada. And now these knuckleheads in Indiana, not all of y'all, but the elected officials, so no offense to those who are not, think that they're going to say, hey, Illinois, why don't some of you counties come over here? Because y'all broke. You need our resources. And no, listen, this is what happens. If you're ever on, for those of you who don't know this, but know the Chicagoland area, there are millions of people that commute from Indiana, Wisconsin, Iowa, and Michigan to where? The city of Chicago, the county of Cook, to work. Henry's breaking his neck. He's affirming so hard. I see the driver's license. I see the license plates. And they come as far as Ohio, y'all, to come to Chicago to work. So we sure as hell are not going to cede some of our counties, as the Indiana General Assembly has the arrogance and, of course, white male and white female privilege to think that they're going to draw some of our counties to come to Indiana. What the hell for? But I will tell you, don't come for us. Don't come for us, y'all. Like Dana said, fight. Wherever you are in the country that listens to our show, listens to WCPT and the other broadcasts that are progressive broadcasts, the message that will certainly be coming from me and hopefully from other colleagues of mine, is don't come for us. And this is what the governor said, Governor Pritzker said in that press conference, is one of the reasons that I follow him. And one of the reasons that I make it clear that our governor and other Democratic governors have to continue to do that. Other mayors, imperfect as Mayor Johnson is, he has to do that. As imperfect as our other mayors are in blue cities throughout the country and our governors are in other states throughout the country. That's the message. You need to let folks know, don't come for us and don't come for our people. Just because Monday's going to happen doesn't mean that we have to let them come for us. They do. They got a price to pay. And then tomorrow I want to talk about this. I want to ask you guys a question today. Be prepared to answer it. That's the homework assignment. What are you going to do on Inauguration Day? I'd like to hear from you guys tomorrow, and I'll try to open the show with that question. What are you going to do on Inauguration Day next Monday? I want to hear from you guys in that space. It's been great being with you today. Thanks for being with us. As I say always, take a deep breath and make your life count. We will see you tomorrow.